The number of anti-Muslim hate incidents recorded in the UK has soared, according to an organisation which tracks Islamophobia. The charity Tell Mama says it's registered a record number of cases. In 2024, there were 5,837 verified incidents recorded, a 165% rise from 2022. Last year, there were 2,307 verified online cases of anti-Muslim hate, a 34% rise on 2023. And there was a huge 715% increase in street-based threatening behaviour between 2023 and 24. So what's driving the alarming upsurge and what can be done about it? We spoke with Tell Mama director Iman Atta and equalities campaigner Atta Yaqub. Iman, were there any particular aspects of this report that concerned you most?
I think within the data that we've been documenting throughout our lifetime since 2012, 2023 and 2024, so the past 2 years, have seen an increase in threatening behavior cases directed at members of the Muslim communities, migrant communities and Middle Eastern communities. That was for us of concern because we're seeing that the level of aggression is on the increase.
What's behind the surge in the cases, Iman?
So anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia, since we started in 2012, has been on the rise every year, driven by multiple factors and trigger events, I'd say, that drive those cases to rise, whether it's far-right agitation, anti-Muslim attacks globally, political discourse, the Brexit referendum result, extremism, terrorism, the grooming scandals, targeted anti-Muslim campaigns, anti-migrant and anti-refugee sentiments. And in the last 2 years, obviously, we've had the October 7 terror attacks and then the ongoing war in Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East, but also the Southport racist riots. All these have contributed and created that surge in anti-Muslim cases that we've been documenting and reporting. And because of the intensity of what has been happening over the past 2 years, alongside the general elections, it has driven kind of a space where anti-Muslim hatred just came out in different ways, where individuals would be walking down the streets and would be called terrorists, would be abused and threatened to be killed. Women would be targeted and would be threatened to be raped.
Atta, do these findings reflect what you see and hear?
Absolutely. I think the findings that we see fill you as a Muslim with fear, anxiety, and not quite knowing what people might be thinking because you are Muslim. What I mean by that is, when a lot of these events, as Iman's just explained, have been happening, people don't want to talk about them. So as a Muslim, you feel like you need to defend yourself when it comes to certain things. You feel that because you're Muslim and some of these events are taking place, that you're that spokesperson for that. But it shouldn't be that case. So these events and some of those figures that we've seen highlight, like I said, fear, anxiety, and a real anti-Muslim narrative that's existing at the moment.
And do you feel there's a kind of ever-present concern?
I think so. I think more and more that you feel that you need to justify at times what you are and what you believe in. And that's not from everyone, Rona. That comes from a lack of understanding, a lack of misinformation and disinformation that the media or social sites can show. That's that political narrative that we've spoken about when politicians come up with things that are very clearly anti-Islamic. So some of that rhetoric has an effect on us as individuals, as Muslims. So you do feel that. In Scotland, some of that might be a little bit different, and that's where some positivity is as well.
Yeah, let's ask Iman about the Scottish picture. I mean, it is concerning to see that Humza Yousaf, our former First Minister in Scotland, is the second most targeted politician. But how does Scotland compare to the rest of the UK?
I think Scotland is number 16, I think, on our list out of 53 regions, different regions that we have that we documented anti-Muslim hatred. Despite the fact that Scotland is in a better place, as Atal mentioned, we still have seen a doubling in cases between 2023 and 2024 reported into Tell Mama. Obviously, whatever happens in England or in other places, as we know today, the world is open. Within an instant, you get news online, whether it's misinformation, disinformation, hate. But equally, that immediately kind of, in a way, translates into actions or language that would also be impacting communities in Scotland. And this is some of the stuff that we're seeing in the online space, but equally in the physical world, that some of the language that we've been documenting in England actually as well have been documented in Scotland, where individuals would be walking down the street and would be called terrorists, or women would be abused. And the online space specifically is one that definitely we're seeing surging in Scotland.
Yeah, and Atta, I mean, is that your perception that things are maybe better in Scotland, that we're a more tolerant society than
I would say so. Listen, I've been here over 40 years. And we are, in my opinion, far more integrated than some of the kind of ghettos perhaps in England in respect to integration with the wider community. That's a huge asset. That's also happened as a result of, being involved in politics, the way people are, such as Anas and Hamza, the pillars of our communities, especially the Muslim community, who have really integrated into that wider community is clear. The relationships with police are strong. I wouldn't say they're amazing, but they're strong. So all that helps the community integration and the community vibe between Muslims and others.
I mean, there's no easy answer, Imam, but what are the solutions we should be looking at? Are there not enough legal protections in place? I mean, what do you think the direction is going forward?
I think we have legal protections in place. We have laws and legislations in the country, and obviously we've seen that on the back of the response in the criminal justice system and from authorities as well post the Southport racist riots that we've seen. So yes, legislation there is, laws there are that we have in place. I think there's more that needs to be done in terms of coordinated approach by the government across different governmental departments, local authorities, municipalities, police forces, working hand in hand with civil society organizations, but equally as well, let's not forget the online space, which is today so much unregulated and a space that is manipulated by individuals who are pouring hate and extremism in there, misinformation, disinformation. But equally as well, despite the laws and legislations that in England will be put in place in March. In Scotland, I know they're already in place. There's always ways and loopholes that those individuals that want to push hateful and harmful language that manage to get away with it. And I think these are some of the things that we need to look at. How can government actually find those social media platforms and hit them pockets?
Atta, you come in there.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think teaching and education is key where our children and young people are. Our teachers need to have the skills and the confidence to talk about a wide range of subjects and be trained enough to do that. That element of community engagement needs to be there so that society is integrated with the institutes. And just lastly, I think workplaces, in terms of their policies and their practices, can be a lot more diverse and embracing. And if we have those 3-4 key things, we'll be reaching a much tolerant society and those understanding of the Muslim faith.